Hello, goblins and ghouls. Welcome back to another Auntie Haul with the Antichrist. I also go by Kylie or Haunted Hippie. That's the name of my other channel. That's where I talk about horror movies. And here, this is my hobby channel. You know, it's mainly dedicated to physical media if you're into that kind of thing. But I also post travel content or spooky outings or just whatever the hell I want. And today, what I want is to do an Auntie Haul. It's a pretty big stack today. These are all of the DVDs. And then here we have all of the Blu-rays, so I think it is a little bit bigger than my last Auntie haul. I do want to start with the DVDs and then we will get into all the Blu-rays. Some of the spines, you could already see the titles of the Blu-rays, so I'll go through those next. I don't really have enough titles for a dedicated section on upgrades, but I have a couple of those today, so I might as well start out with that. I have this DVD of Before Sunset. I was recently sent the Criterion Collection edition of the entire trilogy on Blu-ray. I had thrifted this DVD, I think, last year in the hopes that I would soon be watching the trilogy, but thanks to a wonderful cult member, I no longer have to track these down myself. Oh, and that being said, if you want to become a member, click subscribe. A lot of people watch these videos without subscribing. I think because of my main channel, like the algorithm gods look kindly upon me, and I think the videos just pop up for you anyways, even if you're not subscribed. But just do the extra step, you know? It helps me out a little bit. And then click the like button, the notification bell, that way you really will never miss the next video. Anyway, next up, the next DVD that I have here is Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. This was a pretty good movie. Like, it was decent. I gave it 3 stars. I don't want to get too into it because I did already talk about it in my August recap, so go check that out over on the main channel if you want to hear a little bit more about this movie. I will just say that this was the debut, basically, of Elizabeth Olsen, so I think it's worth a watch. For me, though, not worth a rewatch. Next up, this is a fun, funky little DVD. It's not too hard to find, but maybe you haven't seen it before. I was not familiar with Count Yorga before somebody sent me this DVD years ago. I've had this for so long before I finally just decided to check it out. And I do love a good low budget 70s vampire movie that's very specific. But have you ever seen The Shiver of the Vampires? Love that movie. This Count Yorga just did not meet that vibe. That was sort of, I guess, like the expectation or the standard I had set for myself in terms of low budget vampire 70s movies. And I skipped around. I was a little bit interested by like the first 20 minutes, and then it's just very, very slow. It's very cheesy, and for me, just it wasn't really in an enjoyable way. I do think that there is a trilogy of these original Count Yorga movies. I'm not sure. They're very, very cult classics, so I don't know, worth checking out in my opinion. But I think if I'm in the mood for something like this, I'll probably go with Shiver of the Vampires, or I'll watch an actual like Dracula film. Next up, this was in my last physical media haul, actually, Bay Cove. I told you guys that I got this one because it has our boy Haymitch in it. Woody Harrelson stars in this late 80s made-for-TV little like satanic cult small town film. It just was really bad. Like, his acting in it is so much better than it has any right to be for a film of this budget, but we all get our start somewhere, you know, so gotta respect it. It just was really hard on the eyes. This was tough to watch. It looked so bad, and it just was boring. Okay, I will throw on some made-for-TV garbage every once in a while, but a lot of made-for-TV stuff I feel like gets overlooked. If you've never seen John Carpenter's Someone's Watching Me, I think that one's overshadowed by Halloween because it came out the same year. Excellent made-for-TV film. Like, oh my god. I think with this one, just like depending on your standards for film and like what does or does not make your eyes hurt, you could probably give that one a go. And just a reminder, if anybody is new here, my Poshmark is always listed down below. I do sell the majority of the stuff that I get rid of. And also, I don't think I've ever explained this, but the reason why the DVDs are priced at $5 is because a lot of people bundle them and then I give them a big discount. I ordinarily would not charge $5 for something that I paid like $3 or $4 for, but that's basically like the minimum price for me to like even make a single dollar off of it, because Poshmark takes like a big percentage, whatever. You get the most bang for your buck when you bundle, because like, for example, I think somebody bundled like 4 DVDs and it would have been priced at like $27 or something, so I knocked that down to 20, and then that way you basically just like get free shipping, and yeah, so anyway, that's kind of how it works. Oh, I do have 2 films actually that are just not the correct region for my Blu-ray player, and a lot of people have told me it's worth it, like just get a region free player, like if you're a real collector or whatever, and I agree with you. However, those players, like I would want to get a 4K one, right? Because I want the most bang for my buck, like I want to get the best quality, right, as well, and have it be region free. Those things are like $500, like I'm not even shitting you. And because I want a 4K player at that. Like, I think it just would be really tough to find that used, because I think that's probably the highest quality thing that you could find right now. That's like the current most popular physical media player. So anyway, I'm just not gonna hold on to these for now. If I really am dying to own these again someday when I eventually do see them, then whatever, I'll just repurchase them. They're not hard to find. First of all, I Spit on Your Grave, Deja Vu. This one, like, I literally have never even seen any of the movies of this franchise, and there are a couple actresses in this that I do recognize. So I'm curious to visit this franchise someday, but it's just, I mean, given the subject matter, like, I'm not itching to do it, really. Eventually I will, when I'm like, okay, it's time to finally cover those bases, you know what I mean? But that day is not today. I don't feel it coming anytime soon, so I just don't need to keep a DVD of this movie that's like so obscure. Like, I didn't even know that there was a movie called I Spit on Your Grave, Deja Vu in the franchise, and it's not even the right region, so whatever. Same thing, unfortunately, with Red State, which is a Kevin Smith film. I say unfortunately not because I've ever seen the film, but just because I've heard good things about it. I am really interested in Kevin Smith as a filmmaker. I mean, have you guys seen Tusk? And this is like a nice sleeved copy. I thought about maybe keeping this, but it is like the French version. It's region 2. I don't know, is that Canada? Whatever. This is really easy to find like used on eBay, like within my region, so it's not really a big loss. I'm just bummed because I've never seen the movie and I popped it on because I wanted to like finally give it a go, and then my Blu-ray was like, psych. Sucks to suck. Just 2 more DVDs here. This first one was in a physical media haul very recently as well. Lady Frankenstein. I found this in a pile of a bunch of unopened Roger Corman related films. This is one that is an Italian film. It's an Italian retelling of the Frankenstein story, which was interesting, and it had some really good kind of like gothic visuals. It was very like old looking, like definitely low budget, and not a movie that is probably possible to restore. It looks like probably how it looked back then, which is kind of cool. I thought like, should I keep this if I ever have some sort of themed party and I need to have visuals, because this would have good visuals. And then I was like, that is level 1 hoarding thinking, because that's probably never going to happen, and I have so many other movies that would provide wonderful visuals for a party, and I just wasn't really interested in this movie. I watched a little bit of it and then I like skipped around because I wanted to see the look of the monster. This is one that I hope finds another good home, somebody that just will appreciate it, I think, a lot more than I did, because I didn't really finish it, to be fair. The last DVD that I have is Observe and Report. This one I thrifted a long time ago. I actually found it at a vintage shop, so it doesn't have like the gaudy Goodwill sticker on it. I don't know if this was Seth Rogen's film, like feature film debut or something. It's adjacent to that. Either way, it was around that time of his career. And then it also stars Michael Pena, and then these twin guys that I recognize from other comedies. Anna Faris is also in it, inexplicably. Ray Liotta shows up. He plays a detective in this movie. The humor in this movie was all of the worst parts of Seth Rogen, I feel like, who is somebody that I admire his comedy, and there are so many of his movies that I love, but this just sort of has all of his like worst tendencies, I feel like, before he honed his craft as an actor. I found this movie to be very annoying. I think I watched about like the first 30 minutes and I just didn't laugh once, so I was like, why would I'm not even gonna finish it. It also has all the worst tendencies, I feel like, of Anna Faris, who is another person that I think is really funny. Like, I love House Bunny, but there are some aspects of her brand of comedy that I also really dislike, and this just has all of them. So now I say that we move on to all the Blu-rays that I'm getting rid of, and as you can see in this stack, there were a lot of titles you could already see, so let's just start with those. First of all, this box set of the It's Alive trilogy. This is a quirky little trilogy that started in 1973, I believe. The first movie, at least, was directed by the same guy that directed The Stuff, which I love The Stuff, and I didn't even realize it was the same director until I was like halfway through this movie. And I was semi on board with it. I'm talking about the original film until maybe the midway point, at which point I felt like it really slowed down and just totally, I lost interest. I ended up finishing it, don't worry. I just don't think that it had any of the same kind of comedic bite as this stuff. A lot of people felt that the original film was very provocative, and not only that, but very profound. Makes really interesting commentary, and so maybe you'll be one of those people and you'll actually finish the franchise, because I didn't. I just wasn't really interested. I wasn't all that impressed, but I can understand why at least the first movie is a cult classic. This is in great condition. It is a Scream Factory release, so it might be worth swooping up, also because there are a ton of special features. Up next, this was in a recent subscriber mail unboxing, I think. Youth in Revolt. I was really crushed when I didn't like this film. That also stars Ray Liotta. The cast on this one is actually insane, and I'm so sad that I didn't make it to the part where Justin Long comes in, because I love him so much. But oh, I swear to God. So I watched like the first 30 minutes of this movie, maybe a little bit more, and I think that I laughed once every 10 minutes. So this got a few actual like belly laughs out of me, but then 10 more minutes would go by and it'd be absolute crickets, and I'd be like, what am I watching? It then became clear to me why this was a movie with so many big stars in it that I hadn't heard of before, because much like what I was just mentioning with Seth Rogen and Anna Faris, this has all of the worst elements of Michael Cera's brand of comedy, who again is another comedic actor that I really like and usually makes me laugh a lot. Just really missed the mark on this one. The next three are all horror pack films. This first one, The Call, came in the pack last month, or by the time this video is going up, probably 2 months ago. A real bummer, because this stars Lin Shaye and Tobin Bell, and I was super excited to see them share scenes together. So I did watch the movie up until I got to one of their scenes together, and she was giving nothing, okay? Not Lin Shaye. She always gives it her all, and her performance was really great. But the writing was so flat that even though we had these two horror legends, these powerhouses, Lin Shaye and Tobin Bell together, it was somehow giving nothing. Like, I could not finish this movie. I just couldn't do it. So I was like, you did my boys and girls so dirty here. There are some special features on this, though. If you are diehard Lin Shaye or Tobin Bell fan, maybe you'd get a kick out of it. I don't know. Next up, these two are very similar. They are animated films. They have the same exact animation style. I didn't look up if it has like the same director, but this one is To Your Last Death, and then this is Night of the Animated Dead. So this one is just an exact, almost like shot-for-shot remake of the original Night of the Living Dead. It's just animated. And then this one is its own thing. I actually have no idea if this is a remake, to be really honest with you. Now, I adore animation. I really, really love it, but something about this particular style just did not resonate. It felt very comic booky, and I guess that's just not the aesthetic for me. But I felt like a lot of it, the stylization was just not great. Both of these movies to me looked very flat. I didn't think there was a lot that went into the perspective of everything, and I don't really know enough about animation to speak on this properly, but I'll just leave it at the fact that I didn't really enjoy the aesthetics and I couldn't get through them. This one especially because it just was a beat for beat remake, and I find the visuals of the original 1968 film to be so much more beautiful than this, which is crazy. Again, I love animation. Like, I just imagine my shock. And then this one, let's see, stars Ray Wise, Bill Moseley, William Shatner, and yet I just did not find this compelling. And this one, I think, stars Catherine Isabel. I think she does some voice acting in this one. So, I don't know, really good casts in these, and if you are into comic book animation that looks like it was literally lifted off the page, I'm not talking about like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, not like that, because it's not like that. But if you're into this style, then you might like these. I'll probably sell those together. But now it's time to get into this last little mystery Blu-ray stack. First up, we have The Cured, which is, I think, a semi-underrated Elliot Page film. This one came out in 2017. It is an Irish film, and it's a really unique take on the zombie subgenre. I didn't find it like a waste of time to watch it, but I still gave it only 2.5 stars. Just would never watch it again. It's a pretty feel-bad film, but if you want my full thoughts, then you can check those out in my July recap. Next up is a horror pack movie. It's called Stoker Hills. This one excited me because it was a found footage movie that follows these film students, and it stars Tony Todd, but as I found out, only very briefly. The weirdest thing about this movie is that it bounces back and forth from being found footage to just being a traditional film, and I don't don't know who told them that that would ever work. It was such a weird choice. Like, I appreciate the effort to like stylistically try something that I haven't seen before, I don't think, but I think there's a reason why that hasn't been done before. I think they even slipped up in the newest Paranormal Activity movie, Next of Kin. There was one shot that was not within the found footage that was like during the climax, and it was so jarring. It was like, what the f? Anyway, so for the entire movie to be bouncing back and forth like that, I didn't like it. I have just 2 more horror pack movies to go through, so let's just knock that out. This one is called The Girl Who Cried Her Eyes Out. This is just the typical horror pack fodder. It really hurt my eyes. It was not worth watching even like 10 minutes of. I did skip around, which I don't normally do, honestly, because I was like, let's just see if this goes anywhere. Big shocker, it didn't. Okay, it was really bad. And then the other one is The Dead Room. This one I actually think could have had some potential. This actually might be watchable for a lot of people, but with the concept, they just took it nowhere. I felt like it was so dull. So I think I lasted 20 minutes, which is a good amount of time for me with the horror pack exclusives, okay? And this one is not a horror pack exclusive, actually, to be clear. This is a Scream Factory release and an IFC Midnight film, so it has that vibe if you're like familiar with IFC, but it is very on brand for the type of stuff that horror pack sends out, so that's what I mean. And what I mean is it's just not good. Oh, I do have one more. Well, it's not an upgrade. I just was sent the same edition of Wild Things twice. I love this movie. If you have never seen it, that is such a disservice to yourself. This immediately jumped up to be like one of my absolute favorite thrillers of the 90s. It is just so absurd. Such a fun time, such a fun ride. And this is also the unrated edition, so good stuff. The last 4 Blu-rays are all subscriber mail, actually. This one is called The Villainess. This one has potential if you're into John Wick style movies where there's just like a ton of fighting and a ton of killing, which I love John Wick, but listen, he sets a really high bar, okay? I love John Wick. This is almost like a video game version of it. I watched about the first 15 minutes, and you know what? I never really thought about how frustrating that might be to hear over and over from me, but like when reviewing movies is your job, and now talking about physical media is my job, a girl only has so many hours in a day, okay? I cannot devote hours of my life when I'm watching a terrible film. Like, I will not do it. I'm 25, and your age only goes up, okay? Live your life well, make good choices. I felt like it was the right choice to turn this movie off. The way that it was shot, the first like 10 minutes or so are all POV from this girl who is killing everybody, and I legitimately was like getting close to being motion sick. It was very like video game first person POV, and I just don't really rock with that. It made the filmmaking feel kind of clunky, and it does shift out of that, but then even when it's not in her first person, it's equally as frenetic, and like just it's sloppy. Like, if I want to watch something like that, I'm gonna watch John Wick. I'm sorry. This one I could see definitely not being a total loss. Like, somebody else might really enjoy that. Same thing with Eyes of Fire. I really wanted to enjoy this, and I more or less finished this, except for how much I skipped around. This is an interesting film. It is sort of like a witch hunt movie from the 1980s, and it's a period piece. It very much was giving Robert Eggers The Witch, except not good. A lot of people like this one though. This one seems to be also a very, very cult classic film, where on Letterboxd people praise how trippy it is and like, I don't know, how unique it is. I was not getting that vibe. It was actually really similar to how I felt about the Count Yorga movies, where for me, I just have a threshold with how charming I can find a super low budget film. And this one just like did not really meet me there. Now the next one did. Class of 1984, but I do still need to get rid of this one, to be honest with you. This is an exploitation film, although it is wrapped up in almost like how to describe this? It almost reminded me a little bit of Wes Craven's Music of the Heart. It also felt like worst case scenario Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The children in this movie, like, it was chilling. This is a very exploitative and very direct commentary on basically like fascist youth, and it was horrifying. Like, I don't know if this is fully considered to be a horror movie, but it was horrifying. And I just don't like exploitation movies. That's just a personal preference thing. It's a little bit bit too hard for me to watch because it feels very real, and that's just not why I personally watch movies, but like, no disrespect to people that can stomach this kind of stuff. It just was really, really tough, and no regrets watching it. However, I will never watch it again, so I'm gonna send it along to someone else that might appreciate it more. Again, full thoughts and more info in my August recap. Now, the last movie that I'm getting rid of is Let Me In, which is the remake of Let the Right One In. This one, everybody seems to rave about on Letterboxd, and like, I just didn't get it. The craziest thing about this one was that it was directed by Matt Reeves, who, yeah, he directed Batman in 2022. Or what, 2021, whatever, the one with Robert Pattinson. The aesthetics actually were very, very similar. Like, very similar kind of orange and black color palette to it, which I can dig that, but I'll tell you what, I've never enjoyed the original film. This one felt pretty much the same to me as the original film, and I can totally see fans of the original being fans of that one. That makes sense, but I just don't think that's ever really been the story for me. Maybe I'll reevaluate someday and regret getting rid of it, but I just don't see myself ever reaching for it. Like, I had no interest in finishing it, and I don't know. I think it just comes down to those movies are not made for me. But that does it. That was a pretty sizable stack I was getting rid of today, so definitely be sure to check out the Poshmark. Here are all the Blu-rays that I just went through if you want to just like check out these titles. And then we also have these sleeved Blu-rays and the It's Alive little box set. And then finally, we've got all of these DVDs as well. So I don't know, you can just like pause to check out the titles if you want to, if you don't want to scroll the Poshmark. But yeah, a lot of little cult classics actually in today's anti-haul. Some of them I was a little bit back and forth on. I'm like, maybe I should keep the It's Alive trilogy. And then also Class of 1984. But again, like, I'm not trying to be a level 1 hoarder, okay? My physical media collection is already just getting out of control. I need to be getting rid of more than I'm taking in. And it's not the end of the world. I can always repurchase, you know? But that's gonna do it for today. If you like physical media content, there is a huge, very bingeable playlist on this channel. There also still are a lot of physical media videos over on the main channel on Haunted Hippie. That was before I decided to kind of split the two things up. But on the Haunted Hippie channel, like I said, there are a ton of horror reviews, there are franchise deep dives, director deep dives, original versus remakes, whatever. I also have a Patreon with a ton of extra bonus content. That's worth checking out because I can't even get into all the stuff that I do over there, okay? A huge shout out to the patrons, okay? We love them. They keep these channels afloat. You can also check out my social media. Everything you need is linked down below. But more than anything, I just hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope I catch you in the next one. Bye!